Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jolene Brighten. I'm a women's hormone expert and one of the leading authorities in post-birth control syndrome. And today I'm joined by Jackie, who, like many women, has a pill story to share. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Definitely. So I would love if you could tell us a little bit about your pill journey. So how you got on it, why you came to it, and just what that whole journey's looked like for you.
So I got on the pill in college because when my period was very heavy, it had been my whole life, but that was my normal. That's what I considered normal. And I partly got on it for two reasons. One, because my symptoms from my period were horrible. And two, because I didn't want to get pregnant, which is a very valid reason. But the
Very
other
good
reason,
reason.
the other reason I now know the pill was not solving. But anyways, I was on it for years, not as long as many women, but for all of my college career, and then a couple of years after I graduated. And I got off about a year ago. And something in me just said, you know what, like, I don't necessarily want to be on this right now. I am a long ways away from having children, and I don't know if I want to be on a pill for another like 8 years. And so I just said, I'm going to get off of it, and I don't need it. And I also don't want to pay for it now that my insurance is changing. To be honest, that was like a massive reason why I was like, all right, I'm finally done with this, which I'm very thankful for. It kicked me off of it finally. But as soon as I got off, I remembered how horrible my symptoms were. And when I got off, I finally learned that my mom had endometriosis, and the rest of the women in my family also had endometriosis or some hormonal imbalance. And that didn't really come out until I started like asking my family about it and talking about it with other women. It's one of those things that we just kind of don't talk about, or we think it's normal and that's how it should be, that you should be in a lot of pain or it should be really heavy. And I say should, but it really shouldn't.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, a
Yes.
lot of women, it happens all the time in my medical practice where I will ask women about their family history and they'll say, actually, I have no idea. I have no idea what
Yeah.
my mom went through. And so they have to go and ask because, that's a generation where we were not supposed to talk about our bodies at all.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us get the story that like periods are just bad. They're just terrible. They're just awful. And that's because you're a woman.
Yeah, it's part of being a woman is what I was always told. And so that continued for a while. I was in a lot of pain. It had come back. And to be honest, I thought that again was my normal. So I was dealing with coming off the pill, and that was just like part of that process. So I thought, and it wasn't until my anxiety started spiking severely. And I've struggled with mild anxiety my whole life. But I had gotten off the pill. I had just moved to a new city. I had just started a new job. I had just changed my diet. And so I had all these things that were new to my body. So I had a lot of anxiety, which made sense. And so I wanted to go to the doctor. And at the time I was following a food blogger who had talked about adrenal fatigue quite heavily because she had it. And so I had that in the back of my mind of like, well, maybe that's what that is. Like, I shouldn't be having these anxiety attacks to this degree and to this frequency. So I went to my doctor and asked for a blood test to check my cortisol levels. And I feel as if I was a patient who I've been reading a lot about that, and I had come in just knowing what I wanted, which I don't think a lot of women are able to figure that out right away. They don't necessarily go in asking for that, but I did. And my doctor was really condescending and just wanted to put me on antidepressants. She didn't want me to take a blood work test whatsoever, but I fought my way. I got my blood work test. And what my blood work test actually showed, which was interesting, was though I had all the symptoms for endometriosis, my blood levels showed that I had PCOS. My FSH and my LH were operating at a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So I was just in all sorts of
Let me
hormonal
ask you
chaos.
this question.
Yeah.
Before you started the pill, were your periods regular? Did you have them every like 28, 32 days?
Yeah, I had them they were long. They weren't every 28, but they were like every 32, I would say. And they were always heavy.
Yeah. So why
But
I
I
asked
always
that,
had them.
yeah. So, why I asked that, and you definitely want to dig a little bit deeper, is that
Mhm.
it's well understood. So if you had regular periods, I mean, women with PCOS have irregular periods from day
Yes.
one. They're like, it's 30 days, it's 65 days. I just don't know. But there is something that I've observed, and there is research on this, pill-induced PCOS, and it's where the birth control pill can actually start changing things in your at the metabolic level, that when you come off of it, now it looks like PCOS, but that's the telltale sign, is that if you didn't have it, if you didn't have PCOS signs, because you didn't start the pill at 14, or I'm not sure when you started your period,
Yeah.
but you didn't start until college. So you had, and which is fantastic, because you had this track history of time that you can go back and look at. And if you weren't having irregular periods, or the other symptoms of PCOS, it's unlikely that you just have suddenly now developed PCOS. Of course, like,
Yeah.
I don't know your whole story, and this is something
No, that's speaking to me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you pushed for those labs, because that's actually what happened. That's how I got into this work, is that one of my best friends had regular periods her whole life. She came off the pill and now was infertile. And she came to me and she's like, I need help. By the way, fast forward, she now has a healthy baby. But that was something that her doctor diagnosed her with PCOS. And when I looked at everything, I'm like, how could you have PCOS now if like everything had always been normal until after you came off of this pill?
Yeah, so that is very true for me. And my doctor told me, she's like, you will never be able to have kids. And I was
I
22
just
at
hate
the
that
time.
story.
And I'm like, okay, I'm like many years away from having them. Like, I'm nowhere near that phase of my life, but like, how dare you tell me I can't have them? Her and I didn't work out. I know there are many good doctors, but she and I did not get along.
Well, she's operating off of the knowledge that she has, and
Yes,
we can respect her for that. But there's a new
totally.
story that's coming out, and
Totally. And
yeah,
I really respect MDs like yourself that really are pushing this new science and just this awareness. I think it's really needed. So I'm super appreciative. But yes, I had had PCOS, but my mom had significant difficulty getting pregnant. It took her 6 years, and it happened after she got off the pill that she had this like PCOS like diagnosis, even though she had endometriosis symptoms her whole life. So I was like following in the track record very much.
totally. And this is an area where we need more research, because these post-birth control syndrome doesn't hit every woman the same way. And
Yes.
to me, through my observations, I'm like, we need to be figuring out who and why. Like the reality is, the pill was made for healthy women. It was made for women who are healthy. And so, but we're giving it out like crazy to all kinds of women without standing back and saying, hey, wait a minute, what happened? So with that family history, I mean, thank goodness your mom's been paying attention to her body, and you can get that data and start to piece it together, that there is something in your family history that's, predisposing you, or, you've got the genes that want to go there. Now, epigenetics for the win. You can do so much with diet and lifestyle.
Totally.
But I want to allow you to keep telling your story here.
Yeah. So, and I think just also, though the pill didn't work out for me, like you said, it was made for normal women. I will say, like, it is.
Well, it's like, wait, so much you are a normal woman. Woman.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's an important qualifier. It has done so much for the advancement of women in our society. So I do want to thank the pill briefly for it has given women an option and to control their bodies, which is awesome if they want it. But you're right, we're lacking that education, and I totally was, of what it does to you. And I almost wish my doctor, when I was deciding whether or not it was a good option for me, was like, this is what it does. And here's a little contract that you need to sign to know all the other stuff that could happen. Cause at 17 or 18, however old I was when I was like, I'm going to sign up for this. I didn't know that. And if I had known that, I might've made a different decision. So anyways, I was really anxious about a year and a half ago when I got off. My hormones were all over the place. I was in a lot of pain and felt very disconnected from my body. So I started cycle syncing. I started learning about the 4 different phases of the cycle, which was eye-opening to me. I only thought there was period and not period.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's,
Yeah.
it's really funny because it's actually very true in the medical community as well, that a lot of doctors are under that impression. They're like,
Yeah.
either there's a period or there's no period, and everything in between is like, whatever.
Yeah. So I found that fascinating, and it was a lot of learning for myself. And I tend to be someone who really thrives off learning. So I started delving into all about that cycle syncing. I started like eating to my cycle. So different foods of different phases, raw foods during my ovulation because my digestive fire was up, and more root vegetables during my luteal phase. And I just found that really cool. So, and then what I found was even cooler is that it started working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wait, not only like it's just this fun to learn about, but it actually is having a severe impact on my life. I watched my anxiety go down, which was huge because that's something I've just been an anxious person my whole life. And I almost just like I was labeled like PCOS and like bad period. I was like then labeled anxious. And then I put that towards my identity, like, oh, that's just how I am. And then as soon as my cycle started to improve, my whole health started to improve. And that was really empowering for me. And I felt more embodied because of that and more empowered, which was super cool. And I think I want that for all women, because that, and everyone, both men and women, but I think that's something really cool that happens when you start learning about what your body actually does.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so you actually, we connected on Instagram because you tagged me in a story. And so
Yeah.
at what point did you like stumble upon my work? And I'm just curious, what was helpful for you and in that?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly who had tagged you in something, but I follow a couple different, like food bloggers who are really into menstrual cycle syncing, and a couple different podcasts. So it had to have been in the social media communication sphere that I clicked on it because I was like, oops, someone else like I can follow. And I found your work, and you were one of the first people I've seen who's an MD, and is a doctor.
Wait, did you say M as in Mary or N as in Nancy?
M.
Oh, I'm an N as in Nancy.
Are you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well, just the first one that's a doctor.
Yeah, I am the first doctor. Yeah, this is very true.
Yes. So thank you for clarifying that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I never want anyone to be misled about who I am or what I do.
Well, what you do is awesome, no matter what the title. So a lot of everyone else that I had been following were health coaches, which that's awesome and super respected as well. But I do think there comes a certain authority and assumed knowledge when you do have a higher title. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. And it was almost not, can I trust this information? But it's when other women are asking me in my daily life, like I'll know they'll trust her too.
Yeah.
So I found that to be really awesome. And then again, like I have talked about, I love social media. So I have all your content on your Instagram page. I have followed. Your Facebook Lives have been something that I like tune in at work and just put it on in the background. I know. I get my work done. I get it done. But I have it on in the background. And then the post-birth control syndrome guide that you send out that's free, I really found that to be beneficial. So when I found that, it was after I had gone through my post birth control syndrome, but I never had a label for it. It was just, oh, this is what happened after I got off the pill, and it was horrible and it was really bad. But now I can look back and point to that and say, like, I actually had this and it's a real thing. And I don't know, something about that was eye-opening to me, because most people I ran into, and I would describe that to, it never seemed serious to them. And when I saw that, it actually validated all the emotions I was going through when I was experiencing those symptoms and that pain. I'm like, this is a real thing. Okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And
So I went through post-birth control syndrome myself, and I joke that my family are breeders. I was the first woman not to get pregnant before age 19. So yay, the pill. I'm so grateful because I'm a doctor now because of it. But my doctors too, they were like, oh, whatever, it's just a period, or, oh, you're crazy. Like you always had irregular periods. I had cystic acne. So the assumption was I had PCOS. That was something that they were assuming. And I'm like, no. There's no way I have PCOS and I was in medical school at the time. I'm like, no, my period was every 28 days. I'm telling you this. It was perfect, like clockwork. No, it was painful. And like, it was 8 days of debilitating pain. They also thought I had endometriosis when I was younger, but you don't want to do surgery on a 14-year-old girl. Nobody wants that. But it's something that I've had so many people asking me, like, how is it like you came to this understanding or recognizing all of this? And it's like, well, one, I am a doctor. And so the difference, I'm like, I have health coaches in my medical practice. They are so powerful in helping with people creating change. I mean, they really are a very valuable asset as part of the medical community. But as a doctor, you're trained to prescribe. So I have prescriptive rights for this hormone, which means that I had an extra layer of training to really understand who I could and couldn't prescribe this hormone to. And it was really, I credit so much my background in nutritional biochemistry. So that's what I was doing before I went to medical school, to be able to actually put together these protocols. I was already in research land before I became a doctor. And so it was when I had post-birth control syndrome, I started testing things and trying things out. And to be able to dive into the literature and to look at these complex biochemical pathways and hormonal pathways and be able to piece that all together, along with, naturopathic school, you have years of herb training. What's really cool is that we're trained in pharmacology at the same time we're trained in herbal medicine. And then we're talking about the interactions and all of that. And so considerations around all of that. Yeah, it is really awesome. And it's just something, I saw too that you're a yoga instructor, and that's something so I was a group fitness instructor. I actually had my own private yoga practice and nutrition consulting. I worked my way through school with that. And that is something, there's so many things that I feel like come from my yoga background that I'm like, living in your body, like things that you were saying are so important. And what I observed in medical school, and I was in naturopathic medical school, and that holds space for women a lot better than the conventional paradigm. But a lot of the procedures in medicine are done to women, not with women. And that's what I was actually going to be. I was like, I'm going to go into gut health. I don't want anything to do with lady parts. And then it was like, I was going through my own lady problems. And in addition, I was watching that a gyne exam was constantly done to a woman, and you could see her just kind of leave her body. Like she just would surrender. And I was like, I do not like what's going down in women's medicine. And I had a great gynecology instructor who was, she'd hand a woman a mirror and say, stay with me, take a look here. Like, let's do this together. But that had never been my experience with a path. And that was really so much of why I'm like, I have to go into women's medicine. I have to change this. This is like part of my mission in all of this. And so, yeah, it's definitely true. That's just, back to your point of like, I love that we have the health coaches, and I love that we have the nutritionists. And I was definitely one of, a nutritionist in the past, but it's also something that I love that we have yoga teachers as well, because we're really all part of the healthcare community, and we're what comes together to create a team for women. And hands down, women heal faster when they've got community and they've got a team rather than just one person they're relying on.
Oh, my heart is beating like really fast, because this is like such a important topic to talk about it. And it is a community, and it's all about empowering women. And I think for me, and another layer that is a part of my story, but not so much necessarily at the forefront anymore. I'm a sexual assault survivor, and I used to do a significant amount of awareness on the topic. And so for me, yoga and food and learning about all of this has really aligned with this identity of myself, of coming back into my body. And I think no matter whether you are a survivor of trauma, or you're just a woman who lives in our society where your body is constantly being attacked and judged, and no matter what, I think it is so important to have all these women telling you that you can take control of your body and it is yours and you have the decision to do whatever you want with it. And I think it's so cool. So I feel like very thankful for women like you and yoga instructors and nutritionists and all these things that really are changing the landscape and the discussion around women's health. And at the end of the day, empowering women. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Charles Eisenstein, who he's just a brilliant man, and I recommend anyone look him up. But
I got
a chance, yeah, you're gonna dig him. So I got a chance to like actually hang out with him and spend time with him. And the thing that resonated most to me about what he said is that so many people are living in the old story, and they will get lit up. They'll call you crazy. They'll call you a quack. They'll, say all of these things, that are negative because you're writing a new story and they can't handle it. And that is what I see is happening now, is that all of us women, we're writing the new story. We're defining the new story. It's not a situation anymore. I mean, so much of our story has been written through the lens of men. I mean, even in medicine, and I'm not bashing men. I got a 5-year-old boy. I love him, but it's something where it's like, this is our story and it's our time to rewrite it and to define like, how is the woman's story going to be told for the next generation? And I, for one, am so grateful for all the women who went before us, who took the pill. This is the first time in history we're seeing women who've been on hormonal suppressing drugs for decades of their life. And I'm grateful to them for going before us. But we can see that the new generation is like, no, I don't want that to be my story. Yeah. It's so exciting to be a woman right now.
I totally agree. And like you were saying, men are our allies in becoming equal. So we will never ever bash them. Like you said, they're our sons, our brothers, our dads.
Yeah, I'm like, our mission as women is to inspire. And, as a mom, I'm like, I am raising a man who is going to be female body literate and period positive. Like that is my mission.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And so, if you ever catch my Instagram stories with him, he's hilarious. But whenever I'm on my period,
I've seen him actually. He's so cute.
Whenever I'm on my period, he like pulls out the textbook, like my anatomy books, and he's like, Mama, show me where the blood's coming from. Like, this has been like 6 months in a row now. But I just love that. I'm like, okay, if you want to understand that. And his teachers are like, whoa, your son knows a lot about his body, about like women's bodies. I'm like, because none of this should be taboo. It's like, it's all what we all experience. Like, it's just part of the human experience.
Yeah. And it's your body. But it is really funny how we have lived in this male hormone dominated world. Like, if you think about the corporate culture, like it is designed to the 24-hour male hormonal schedule.
Yeah.
Which is, that to me, when I learned that, was mind blowing. Now I notice it all the time and notice how I can use my hormonal cycle now that it's synced and operating functionally.
Yeah, you can totally leverage it. I mean, this is, I work with women, who, so like I work with a lot of the Silicon Valley community and all the biohackers that are there as well. And, women who are CEOs, that once they understand how to work with their cycle, and I explain to them, like, I know when it's time to, like, if I've got to go into a major meeting, I know when that's going to work best for me. If I need to be creating and I need to like write creative content and start creating things, like I know when that's going to be best for me. Like our cycle is literally a superpower. Like we can, we get to experience. I mean, that's the thing that gets me about the, you were anxious, and anxiety is the worst. Like I remember in medical school, they were like, oh, it's kind of uncomfortable. And then I had anxiety. I was like, no, this is not kind of uncomfortable. This is downright debilitating. But, with that, the answer was, oh, well, let's give you a prescription to suppress it. But that's not what we're here for. And no, not dissing anybody who takes the prescription. You got to do whatever you feel is best for you.
Yeah, totally.
Support you with that. But it's a situation where we're here to fill all the things. And I, for one, am like, okay, I'll take the days of anxiety if it means I also get to have the days of joy. And as a woman, there's, we have been, sometimes vilified for like having PMS or for having emotions, or, there's all the jokes that go around. But in reality is like, we are synced to things bigger than us, bigger than our body, like things that are unseen.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And we get to have that whole woman experience.
Yeah. No, I love that I'm a woman. I think it's so cool. And my girlfriends now, when I'm like, I love my period, like the two hemispheres of my brain communicate that, they're like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, no, like it's you too. Like you can access that too. Like that's your body. And like, even though quote unquote, what is painful, what we're taught to be painful can be like another really cool time of the month.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
it's totally changed my life syncing with it.
yeah, I was just going to say, it's, I think is just really crazy overall is how I had these extremely painful periods, like hugging a hot water bottle, eating way too much ibuprofen. No wonder I had gastritis and gut issues like as a teenager. But through all of that, now my period sneaks up on me. Like I have to look at where the moon is to like have an idea, unless an app like notifies me. But my residents have been with me in clinic and I'm like, oh, I think I might be having my period. And they're like, wait, how do you not know? I'm like, it literally just sneaks up on me now. Like I am feel like so even kill. And I'm like, whoa, had you told me that 20 years ago, I would have laughed at you. And I was taking the pill because I was like, thank God I don't have that.
Same.
I didn't have a period for 2 years because I thought I was smarter than my body. Oh Lord. And the things I would tell my 20-something-year-old self.
Yeah.
That and probably sleeping more. It would be on the agenda.
I definitely could use some more in college as well.
Yeah. So I'm curious, is there anything that you would want, like a message to go out to women who are on birth control or maybe hating their period, thinking about coming off, anything that you want women to know and would want to share?
One, that you're not alone in feeling what you're feeling. And that can apply to absolutely everything in life, but especially this topic because half the population experiences this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not alone in what you're feeling. And two, it is totally possible to get off the pill and have normal cycles that just sneak up on you. Like I used to have debilitating endometriosis that kicked me out of school for days. And yesterday my period just popped up and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like had no idea you were coming. And like, it is possible, and it's possible through knowledge and understanding yourself. And it's possible through good food and just changing your life cycle and adapting to that. You can either, someone told me this and it kind of changed my perspective on the female cycle. You can either work with it or work against it. And it's going to work against you if you don't want to work with it.
Totally. That's a good saying because that's like that's nature 101. Nature always wins.
Exactly. So nature always wins, and it's possible, and you're not alone.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your pill journey. And this is just, you really are an inspiration. And give us your Instagram handle so people can go find you and follow you.
Yeah, I'm at Jacqueline Reilley. REILLY_, just my name. You'll be able to see it with like the yoga stuff, and I have hormone health in there. This has changed my whole life to the point of I eventually want to change my career to go into this. I feel as if it's my period called me, if you will. So I'll figure that out, how to do that someday soon, but would love to connect with anyone on Instagram. I'm on it all the time.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I think it's an honor to meet you and just to chat about this. And thank you for your work.